Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Media Chatter. Tonight we are going to be covering the recent Netflix sci-fi action movie. I guess you can call it an action movie called The Adam Project. I'm Eric and I'm here tonight with Lou and Robin. Lou, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. And they call this an action adventure comedy.
Sci-fi with the
is what it's billed as
sci-fi.
in IMDb.
Action adventure comedy sci-fi. They're
Doesn't say
very
sci-fi.
it does. On
Okay.
my IMDb it does.
No, it doesn't. No. No.
Are you looking at my IMDb? I'm looking at this one. This one right here. Swear to God, I'm taking a picture and sending it to you.
Robin, how are you doing tonight?
I am waking up.
You're waking up.
I'm waking up.
Okay. All right, that's good. We seem to have a little...
I took a nap.
You know, I did too. I had a rough day at work. I took a nap afterwards, but I'm refreshed and ready to discuss this episode. By the way, it appears that Lou has a little bit of a delay in the video for the stream, and I'm not sure why. So if
I've been a little slow all day, so
yeah, it happens when you get old. So if I it's been too long. I held out for as many episodes as I could.
It's been a long time, yeah.
Yeah. So if it sounds like I'm cutting him off, like at the end of what he says, I'm actually not in the call, but for some reason, like just his audio and video's coming a little.
You are
delayed.
sometimes a jerk like that. I'm just saying.
That's not wrong. That's not wrong. Hey, as long as you agree to hate Mulholland Drive when we cover that.
I still gotta watch that.
You really don't. You really, really don't. In the history of movies you don't need to watch, that may be the very top of the list. Wow. Yeah, okay, moving on. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So The Adam Project, this is a new movie from Netflix that came out Friday. We're recording this, what is it, March 14th, 2022. It came out last Friday. This is one of, I think this is probably the first big movie release that Netflix has done in a month or two.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's got Ryan Reynolds, Zoe Saldana, Catherine Keener, Alex Malari Jr., who most people probably don't know. I saw him in, what was that series on the Sci-Fi Network? It's right on the tip of my tongue. That was Killjoys and this other thing came out. I'm going to have to pull it up on IMDb now. It's also got Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, yeah. What was that show?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now because it was a good show and I don't remember what the name of it was. Dark Matter.
Oh, yeah.
Dark Matter. And they kept Killjoys, but not Dark Matter because Dark Matter was based on a comic book and so they had to pay extra money to license it. So it got dropped. But he was really good in that. Smaller role in this. This is basically about a guy who goes back in time and he has a quest. And then in going back in time to finish his quest, he ends up accidentally running across his younger self and then antics ensue. It's billed a little bit as, it feels like it wants to be a family movie, and yet it's rated PG-13, and it's definitely PG-13. I've got some mixed feelings on that. I liked the movie overall. I'm having a hard time deciding whether to really strongly recommend it or not. What do you guys think? Robin, what's your take on this one? Uh-oh. Did we lose Robin? Robin, you're muted.
You only lost me
I don't
if
hear.
I can get my technology.
Oh, well,
right.
yeah.
So, there it is. See. I was a little conflicted about this. I was talking to somebody at work about it today. I'm like, I liked the movie, but I think I'm a little Ryan Reynolds out. I'm sorry. I love the guy, love him, but there was just something about, it's like, do I have to watch another Ryan Reynolds movie? I think had it been like a month from now, but I got to tell you, I sat down, I laughed hysterically, I cried. It's a very rare director who can do that. So, yeah.
I had none of those emotional connections to this movie at all. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's light
Luke
and
cried.
fluffy and
I know Luke
saccharine
cried.
and like, I don't want to say cheesy. What was the word I came up with earlier that I wanted to use? It felt shallow to me. I get what you're saying about the Ryan Reynolds thing, and I think for me, what did it was a lot of the kids' dialogue was clearly written by Ryan Reynolds, and it felt like he was doing a Ryan Reynolds impression instead of being his own character, and I think that really bugged me, and that kind of lent toward me feeling the same way. I'm not Ryan Reynolds out by any stretch of the imagination, but it felt like they were trying really hard to be Ryan, capital R Ryan, capital R Reynolds, TM. So,
see, and I don't see that at all, because I thought they did a great job of making this kid feel like a young Ryan Reynolds. I really enjoyed the way they wrote him and the way he got the lines off and was that quippy, sharp as attack responses to things. And it played into the character of him getting in trouble at school and why he was, bullies were after him. And that whole thing worked for me. And I thought to myself, I think about a third of the way in, I'm like, man, this kid nailed being young Ryan Reynolds. And it worked for me a lot.
And yeah, that part worked for me too. I think it just overall, like I procrastinated about seeing it because I kind of felt like I knew what I was going to see because Ryan Reynolds is in it. But then I got to tell you, like I sat down with all sorts of projects surrounded me. Like I'm going to watch it and then have to watch it again. And it drew me in part because the dialogue was so well written. That dialogue just did not skip a beat. It was just, I thought it was perfect.
Okay.
Boo.
What? No, I agree.
Yeah.
I said everything before. I mean, I really liked the kid. I thought they did a great job with him. And I think that, I see what Eric's point was, but I'm also like, well, that's what they were trying to do. I mean, it worked for me.
I agree. That's what they were definitely trying to do that. And I think the kid's performance and delivery were really good. I just felt like it, we talk about, Tim was talking about how Ryan Reynolds kind of just plays the same character all the time now. And if you want to see Ryan Reynolds not being, quote, Ryan Reynolds, go watch things like The Nines, Buried. Definitely watch Buried. Kind of before he became Deadpool. So he's done a lot of stuff that he really, he can act. He doesn't have to do this kind of shtick thing. And he does the shtick thing really well. To me, it felt a little forced watching the kid do the shtick thing because, I don't know, it felt clear that Reynolds was writing all the lines and they were delivered okay, but it felt heavy-handed at times. It was okay. It wasn't bad. It didn't ruin the movie for me. It was okay. But I didn't, love it.
Okay, so agree to disagree because I thought it was brilliant the way they wrote him to make him a young, it really worked for me seeing him as young Ryan Reynolds.
I'm glad it worked. For me, it was kind of like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here, and I guess I'll play along.
Yep. And I can see your point. I'm not saying you're wrong, but you're wrong. Okay. So
that's fair. All right. So another thing about this movie that kind of felt a little bit weird to me. So you've got this kid. Do we know what age he was supposed to be? What grade in school? Anything like that? 12? Okay.
12. He was 12.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's the same age as my son. And I kind of feel like if my son treated my ex-wife or I the way that kid treated his mom, I'd have an issue with it. Ryan Reynolds comes back. He treats this kid if an adult treated my kid that way, and I'm about as non-confrontational as they come, but I'd be up in that guy's face. and probably police would be involved by the time the conversation was done. The guy was a jerk. And like, I get the fact that it's like, it's himself, so he can kind of get away with it, but it's also himself, which is kind of like why I'm like, wow, dude, you're being like really harsh. So you've got a kid who's kind of a jerk, and yeah, it's part of his character's journey. And then you've got an adult who's kind of a grown-up child, which I guess is kind of the point of the character, but both of the protagonists are jerks through 90% of the movie. Not 75% of the movie or 2/3 of the movie, but about 90% of the movie. And I'd have a really hard time having my son watch this with, you know, the bullying, the how to deal with the bullying, which not a fan of how this movie handled certain aspects of some of that. And then, you know, these are the heroes of the film. And like I mentioned in Random Chatter, we talk about how parents don't parent their kids anymore. And we all moan and groan and complain about that. But then something like this comes out and it's like, oh, it's just a movie, get over it. Well, you can't have it both ways, because movies end up being babysitters, even more so now than when we were growing up. And I mean, it's garbage in, garbage out. If this is the kind of thing you're feeding the kids, then you need to expect the kids to have attitudes that kind of represent this type of media. So I kind of feel like I would not want this to be an example of normality to my kid, because I would not want my kid normalizing this behavior. So I don't know. And so here's where it really, I know I'm going long-winded here, but one last thing, what really bothers me about this is, to me, a lot of the plot elements were kind of basic, very predictable, the kind of thing I would expect from like a Star Wars kind of thing on Disney Plus, where, okay, we're not getting into like a lot of really deep things. It's kind of about like family dynamics and stuff like that. And the way a lot of the dialogue came across seemed to be trying to appeal to a younger crowd. And a lot of the thematic stuff seemed to be trying to relate to a younger crowd. And yet, given that last point, it felt awkward to me.
When we recorded Random Chatter last night, I definitely felt that this was on the edge of PG-13 or higher, because it didn't seem like, and I don't have kids, but it didn't seem like I would want to have a young child watching this, because it didn't seem like it was portraying what you should be as an adult or as you should be growing up.
Right.
It was truthful stuff. I mean, you know, the thing of him being bullied was, you know, felt accurate in you know, what he wanted to do to the kid when he was older, confronting the bully was accurate, I thought. But it also just felt like, boy, that's pretty dark for young kids.
And a lot of Ryan Reynolds humor in those slapsticky moments, he goes kind of dark.
Yeah, like, don't you want to just hug him until the bubble stops?
Until the bubble stops. Yeah, it's like, whoa, hey, like, it's a funny line, but like, not wanting my kid to watch that.
Exactly. I thought it was funny. I'm like, what?
Or the way, like, he kind of, okay, I'm going to abandon you now, and you're going to get your butt kicked by the bullies because you have to in order to become a stronger person later on. See you, bye. It's like, whoa, hey, no.
But it was also, it worked for me because, aside from the whole PG-13 thing in younger audiences, that worked for me because he was, he knew what he went through. He knew what he had to get to. He knew how he had to grow. So that was your older self telling your younger self.
Except I feel like he was wrong, but I think that was also part of the character progression for the adult version through the movie too. So I get it, and it worked for me. Right. It just wouldn't work.
They rectify some of that
or a kid,
at the end. I think. Right, and I said the same thing. It's not. I don't think it's for kids, but. And I'm not going to spoil it, but they did rectify some of that at the end.
But almost like they waited until the very last scene. Like, it wasn't even growth. It was almost like they get to a point and then they flip a switch, especially for the kid.
Yeah, but isn't that what happens in time travel?
Well, let's talk to Robin. It is her favorite subgenre. So,
yes.
I'm sorry, what?
My brain just had an aneurysm. I'm fine.
And we were the cause.
Good.
I love it.
Swear if one of my students mentions the terms subgenre and time travel in any paper they write for me this term, that's it.
It's important for students to challenge their teachers. It is a form of growth. Just saying. So, Robin, any thoughts on this aspect of it? Is it geared more for adults? Is it geared more toward kids or teenagers? Is the content appropriate for the target it's going for? Am I overreacting to? And it didn't upset me. And again, as an adult, it's a good movie. I feel like it was aiming lower than it should have been age-wise.
Did you have the same feelings when you watched A Christmas Story and the bullying that was happening there?
I didn't like A Christmas Story. I think it's overrated.
See, I had no problem. I had no problem with that piece of it.
Okay. Did we lose Robin? We lost Robin.
It was that it just. Oh, we did. Yeah. The only problem I had with it was that it just felt like it was too.
Okay, she's back.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh my God, you guys are so delayed. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Like I was like talking, and then you guys are talking, and then you like stop.
Yeah,
it was weird.
Your internet's being wonky tonight.
There's something wrong.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you froze. It's
not us.
It's you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's perfectly acceptable. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
My dogs actually say that to me on a nightly basis.
I believe that.
But I guess I didn't have a problem with any of that stuff, and that's so weird. Usually, I am kind of hyper about that kind of stuff. Because I figure a precocious child grows up to be a precocious adult, and Adam, the big Adam, as they bill him as, was a precocious adult that I wouldn't necessarily want to spend a lot of time with, and I probably wouldn't have wanted to spend a lot of time with him as a child either. So
I didn't find them very likable. I felt like the grown-up one was not very grown up. Like he was an adult, but he never grew up.
Yeah, no, he wasn't very grown up.
And in a bad way, not like in a fun, playful way, but in a, wow, you're kind of a jerk kind of way. So, I don't know. Zoe Saldana's character was good. I liked her.
Oh, yeah. I want to be her.
And
sure.
Catherine Keener's character, I felt, was a little underused. Or not used efficiently. Like she appeared in a lot of the movie, but I think I kind of wanted to see more of her as the villain. Like I wanted to see more of what makes her tick, more of why she was doing what she was doing. I don't really feel like we got a strong sense of the villain's motivations other than just, oh, hey, I'm greedy.
Money.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we all are to some extent. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know about you, Lou, but I feel like that was the biggest leap to take in terms of seeing her younger self and hearing the motivations of the younger self and then experiencing the older self. I think that was a huge leap. But again, I've never been faced with, that much money and,
Lou, what do you think?
I can see what they were doing with it, and I think it fit in with the character. But there's a lot of things at play there. They were both had ideals what was going on, and this presents one of the time travel. I'm not gonna say paradoxes, but one of the problems with time travel. How do you control it when now it's a free for all? Anybody can do anything to plant something back in time and growth and do things and change. Just how does that all work? And if time travel is invented, I think the fabric of time space just kind of disintegrates and we're toast. But so I don't see how you would control that. But this was a kind of a unique take on that. I mean, I shouldn't say unique because it's been done before, but it seemed
worked.
Like it seemed like they handled time travel different than other movies have, and it worked for me. It was very simplistic, not meant to be. Let's get into the real nuts and bolts of how time travel works. But
I would agree.
It worked fine.
I think that time travel as a mechanic in this, they handled it well. Regarding the villain, do you think that the villain was a good villain? I don't mean acting wise. I mean, was the villain developed well?
Not really.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rob.
You know why? Because we never got to see the time he came from, and it was only alluded to once or twice.
Right.
And it was, hey, 2050 is a, let's say, clown circus with not so nice words, right?
Yeah. Well, he mentioned, he goes, you saw Terminator, right? Well, that's 2050 on a good day. Like,
yeah.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's rough.
And that was it, and so it was sort of just out there for you to believe him. Some people could say, 2022 is that.
Right. I mean, how much hyperbole is he using?
It's a really good year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that was a problem for me because I had to believe him and just go from there. Like Zoe Saldana's character, I forgot her name and my iPad turned off.
Laura.
Laura, thank you. She didn't seem to have any, feelings about it one way or another. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it wasn't mentioned by the villain. So you just had to believe, Ryan Reynolds, and for a character whose job is to kind of get under your skin. Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe it,
Yeah, I kind of feel like the base layer of this movie was never really developed or presented to the audience very well. Like, we don't really have the groundwork. We have the characters, we have the interactions. The interactions were good. The interactions made the movie. And especially once we get to Mark Ruffalo, who plays the father, I think that that's really where the movie shines. And the confrontation at the end, I thought, was done well, which it's not always in a movie like this. So I think there were some strengths of this film in the interactions and in how they resolve the ending. And where the characters end up, even if I have a little bit of an issue of how quickly they just kind of magically get there at the end. But I do think that we don't really understand the stakes. We don't understand the motivation, why it was so important for the hero to come and do this. And we don't understand the motivation of the villain. Because it kind of sounds like, even as the villain, I'd probably want, I mean, if I were rich and living in a Terminator-like world, I'd still want to go back and change things. Like, that's not, what good's money going to do at that point? Which makes me, back to your point, mm-hmm. Robin, it makes me then kind of doubt the lead character's comments and say, okay, so what's really going on in 2050? And we never know. We don't know anything about it. So I feel like those are two areas in which this otherwise good movie really missed the mark in establishing the motivations for both the hero and the villain, and establishing what the stakes really are. And those are big balls to drop. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, the movie was good.
I mean, I kind of gave some of that kind of stuff a pass in this movie because it was a fun ride. It wasn't, it wasn't really a heavy-handed sci-fi movie where, oh my God, look at how they do that, and what's the mechanics of this, and why does that work the way it does? They weren't playing any of that stuff. They didn't take any of that stuff very seriously, and for me, that was actually a blessing because I kind of could just enjoy the ride and not worry about thinking about all the stuff that was going on and why and how that happened.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that, again, the strong points of the movie kind of made up for the things that could have been better. And it was a good ride. It was a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Okay. Is there anything else we want to say about the movie? I mean, it sounds like we would recommend this. Yes.
Absolutely.
I would. Yep.
Okay.
I think lots of good stuff in the movie, and it played to, an older audience, I think. So it was, like we said before, not meant for kids, but enough meat that it was fun to have. And I thought it handled time travel differently than a lot of other movies did. So it felt fresh in terms of that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I'm not as enamored with it as the two of you are. I feel like it was, I feel like the writing could have been better. And I feel like it was kind of I don't want to say a watered down plot, but it was a little simple, I guess. It felt like it was trying to appeal to such a broad spectrum of audience that it missed really doing anything interesting with the film. It was fun, and I appreciate it for that. So there's that. And it was well directed. Listen, even if I think the writing could have been better, Sean Levy did a really good job directing it, I think. I think the performances were good. Some of the effects work, there were moments here and there where I'm like, ooh, they could have done that a little better. Like when they look up in the tree line and the ship decloaks, and then you realize it's kind of decloaking in the middle of the tree trunks. Yeah. And it's like, well, what happened to the tops of those trees that we just saw a minute ago? That was like weird. Wow, that's like such a big thing for someone to miss in editing. But, okay. It's fine. But I thought the directing was good. The rumors are that Sean Levy is in talks. I thought it was confirmed, but it turns out it's just in talks to direct Deadpool 3. Mm-hmm. And again, writing, I think, is going to be what's key there. So if the writing is good, I think he can definitely direct. He's shown us that in a lot of other movies he's done. So I don't know. I think I'd recommend it. I just maybe didn't feel quite as wholehearted about it as you guys. But 3 positive reviews, so that's a good recommendation, I guess. So The Adam Project is streaming right now on Netflix, and go watch it. Again, if you've got kids that are not yet teenagers, maybe watch it first and then make a decision about whether you want them to watch it. It's like right on that border of it's probably okay, but you may also have some issues with some of the stuff. I don't know. Next up, I think we're going to cover Upload, right? Yes? Robin, I know you've already been on a podcast that's discussed it, but it's like one of my favorite shows of the last few years. So this is me playing my trump card, my lowercase t trump card, which we all get to throw one in here. I'm sure there's all going to be things that.
Is that like a special deck of cards that Lou hasn't bought me yet?
Could be.
Or what is that?
Could be. So we're going to cover Upload. Season 2 just hit Amazon Prime this past weekend, and I'm about halfway through it. Lou, I know you've started it. I don't think Robin has yet, but she's going to have to. And then we are going to discuss Upload next Monday night. So that is going to do it for this episode of Media Chatter. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to those in the chat room who've been hanging out with us. We do record these live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Monday nights now. We moved from Tuesdays to Mondays, and don't forget the time change. So if you are international, it is GMT -5 now, thanks to daylight savings time. And we are also recording live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. We do Force Chatter and Random Chatter. And we would love to see you there. So be sure to check out the podcasts at randomchatter.com. Randomchatter.com/Discord is where you can go to join our Discord server and discuss this or any other movies that you want to start a discussion about. And let us know in the comments below here what else you would like to see us cover on Media Chatter. Go to randomchatter.com/YouTube or youtube.com/randomchatter. Hit the subscribe and like button, and the notification button will let you know when we go live. And then you can come and join us. But comment below. Let us know what you would like us to cover here on the show. That's going to do it for this episode. We will see you again in a week. Until then, take care.